What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. The end is near for Shawn Michaels' title reign. After 2 years, Armageddon was back. And the reason why the name wasn't used for 2001 was in part due to 9/11. They didn't want to offend the victims of the tragedy at the time, hence the replacement of the name in December. With that said, the WWE was slowly starting to bring in new and returning talent around late 2002 and early 2003. The Rock was almost done filming the rundown. Shout out to this video, be coming after the CM Punk one. Stone Cold and Vince McMahon met in a high-rise building to clear the air. Hulk Hogan was coming back, and then there's Goldberg. So a lot of stuff was going down in the back. Add to that, new guys like Sean O'Hare and Nathan Jones were called up. Those men that I mentioned a few seconds ago would all return or debut within a 2-month time span. As to this pay-per-view, a lot of people don't talk about it. And there is rumblings of Armageddon 2002, but it's not really positive. The show's often seen as disappointing, underwhelming, and if we were to point the finger at why it's perceived as such, I'd say it's the main event. On paper, it was supposed to be this chaotic encounter between two ex-friends. It was chaotic, alright, just not the chaotic everybody expected. Last time I watched it though, I found some enjoyment in the match, but that was a long time ago. Armageddon 2002 was held in the Office Depot Arena in Fort Lauderdale, Florida on December 15, 2002. 9,000 were in attendance to witness Jeff Hardy wrestle on Heat, and the buy rate was 335,000, which was actually higher than Vengeance 2001's 307,000. As expected, this pay-per-view couldn't touch 2000's Armageddon from a business standpoint. Okay, the first match was for the World Tag Team Championships. The Dudley Boys, William Regal and Lance Storm, Booker T and Goldust challenged Chris Jericho and Christian, better known as the Ass Clowns, for the titles. So at this point in time, these two were causing a ruckus inside and outside the ring. And they were embarrassing themselves with stupid segments like this and were overall a joke and storyline. Right out of nowhere, Lance Storm tried to capitalize on Bubba's distraction with several strikes. He realized the error of his way and randomly called Storm Canadian scum. What the hell? Christian was forced into the match and was thrown around. Goldust and Regal enter, and as he's building momentum, Christian tags in. The King of the World wants to enter, but he's catapulted. YJ, though, adapted and reminded Goldust of who he is, but nonetheless, he figured it out before tagging out and double-teaming the champions. I thought he was going to complain about gimmick infringement here, but he didn't. They did the and even though this was not the time, they wanted tables. However, the heels took notice, and it turned into an all-out brawl. The Dudleys finally hit the 3D, but were unaware of the tag. Awkward pinfall attempts leads to the Dudleys' elimination. Like, what in the Starrcade 97 is that? And it's the same referee. Actually, scratch that, they were eliminated, but I was pretty confused around here. Regal soon would be pinned as well, and so it was down to 2 teams. Booker finally entered the match, and he kicked up the intensity. They double-teamed Jericho, and it would have gotten them the W, but Christian broke the fuck. Goldust made a big mistake that Y2J took advantage of before tossing him back in. Christian sucks chant intensified as he's desperately trying to ground the challenger. The King of the World is back in, and he's taking his time with strikes. Goldust quickly retaliated, though, with a sudden clothesline, and he was trying to get the fans behind him to make the tag, but once again, Christian ruined everything and took advantage of the referee. He was stupid with his approach, though, as this led to the crucial tag that changed the complexion of the match. The 5-time champion was untouchable. He was delivering strikes, countering their offense, and Jericho's Walls attempt was almost disastrous as well. Scissors kick goes south, and Jericho finally locked in. He was forcefully willing his way in, but it didn't matter because Goldust saved it. Christian's night went from bad to worse. Jericho was in a tough situation, and then Booker T went up top. He connected with a missile dropkick, but again, Chris Jericho kicked out. Y2J finally rebounded with a face buster, but it didn't matter in the long run. Spinner Rooney, scissors kick, but once again, Christian gets involved. It's been happening ever so often in this match. This is like the 5th time. And when I tell you the fans wanted the good guys to win it, I mean it. Jericho blasted him with the title, hits the lion salt, but it shockingly wasn't enough. Booker managed to rebound and hit the bookend. 1, 2, 3, new champions. The weak link and Booker T stand tall. Good opener. The match itself was decent, but it got way better when the other teams were eliminated. The fans were very interested in the action itself, and they were over the moon over the results. Because at the time, Goldust was being considered the weak link of the team, but that would all change here because he was finally a tag team champion. All was good about this match. As I said, the fans loved the Booker T and Goldust. They despised the champions, and the action wasn't bad at all. I do think it would have been better had they removed the 2 teams and had a rematch outright. I think that would have gone down well, especially with that crowd. They didn't do it. I didn't remember the result properly because I seem to remember the heels retaining the titles here. Like, I just don't remember that at all, which kind of caught me off guard. Afterwards, Booker T said that the fans gave them a chance, and he straight up told Goldust that he isn't the weak link and asked if they could dig it. They showed a clip of Brock Lesnar being asked about the Kurt Angle / Big Show match, but he didn't say much. However, he did guarantee he promised to make an impact. The next match was between Edge and A-Train. Towards the end of 2002, Albert was finally getting somewhat of a push. It was the first time they was actually doing something very notable. In his storyline, he was desperate to stand out, and he did just that by destroying Rey Mysterio and Edge. As for Edge himself, it's hard to say where he would have been in the year of 2003. You know, he could have won the US title, WWE title. That might be a stretch, just saying. In the beginning, A-Train's size and aggression wasn't really shown here. He did show some glimpses such as this, but Edge was fully focused. He had a strategy and was hell-bent on making it work. A-Train was making a hell of a lot of mistakes. Add to that, his arm and left leg were being targeted. Nevertheless, he finally connected with a power slam and went to work. Chokes, catapults, the usual big heel offense. Edge was being worn down, and by the looks of it, there was not much he could do in the moment. He started fighting back with a slew of punches that actually did some damage to A-Train, who's fast, agile, and progress was being made. Edge even hit a super Edge-O-Matic from the top, but like the XFL, he was too ambitious and took a huge bicycle kick. For some reason, A-Train wanted to use a chair. That never happened. Few counters lead to the bomb. 1, 2, no. He gets frustrated and wanted to use a chair, but Edge took advantage though with a spear, and once again, there was a kick out. Then, all of a sudden, from out of nowhere, A-Train blasts Edge with a chair to cause the DQ. I'm not gonna lie, this might be a hot take, a hot take, but I enjoyed this match. I did not expect that, to be honest. I thought it was going to be the worst of the night or the most forgettable or something like that, but they exceeded my expectations. Is it the best match in the world? By no means. The finish was annoying. The action was average, but I liked it. It was textbook stuff. It flowed well. A-Train gave Edge a lot of offense despite his size, and I wouldn't say it's dull, but that's just me talking. The finish did kind of make sense with A-Train's new gimmick, but it's a DQ finish. We all know how I feel about DQ finishes. I thought it was going to leave Edge laying, but it turned out to be the opposite, and damn what a chair shot that was. It's like he owed Edge money or something. And as I said earlier, it's interesting to think about what could have been for Edge in 2003. Backstage, the Big Show was fuming over the revelation from Brock Lesnar. He didn't appreciate the lack of respect and wanted to walk into Stephanie McMahon's office and speak his mind. Paul Heyman didn't want this, and he felt that this was going to go awry if that were to happen. You know, last time Brock Lesnar's suspension was lifted because they complained. He managed to steer the conversation into a positive direction and finally convinced Big Show to stay put. That would escalate later that night, I should know. Following this, Eddie Guerrero faced his buddy, Chris Benoit. Now, both of these men weren't at the upper echelon, but they were certainly close, especially Benoit. Okay, the bell rings and both men were quite hesitant. Benoit randomly burst out and went for a key lock. Eddie drops him and goes for a leg bar, and he went for some vicious chops. The look on Benoit's face was telling. Latino heats applying pressure, and he walks into a backdrop. He immediately went back to work on that arm, and he was very eager to keep Benoit under him. This didn't matter, though, because he forcefully lifted him up and slammed him on his back. However, you could clearly notice that Eddie did some work on that arm. Following this, he opted to wear him down from the top. This greatly frustrated the rabid Wolverine, and he was desperate to kick up the intensity. That didn't work, though. Eddie connects from the top and back in the ring. They're both trying something. Like WWE with part-timers, Eddie didn't want to let go of the hold. A little bit of showmanship, and basically, the match had been ongoing for about 7 minutes or something, and in that time, Eddie was in control for nearly the entire thing. This would all change, however, as he went for the German suplexes. He completed the hat trick, but since Guerrero was in control for so long, he hit 5 of them. A few seconds later, he did the same exact thing, and this caused him to do a couple of Germans of his own. Snap suplex, and he's looking froggy. Eddie hits L1, and it actually worked. 1, 2, Benoit kicks out. He tackles him to the outside, following this, and Chavo from out of nowhere blasted Benoit with the title. Once again, he kicked out, and so Guerrero locked in the lasso. Chris was in agony, huge pain, but he reached that rope. He finally rebounded with a few chops and successfully hit a powerbomb. The commentary, though, questioned if he still has it in him, and Chavo once again tried to do something, but he was bounced off the rope. Eddie tried taking advantage, but failed, and instead received the headbutt. From out of nowhere, though, Guerrero, for the second time, locked him in the lasso. It wasn't a huge issue, though, and Benoit locked him in the crossface. It was looking like he was reaching the rope, but Chris rolled over and forced him to tap out. Yet another good match. It was very intense, competitive, and obviously it's not their best match together, but they had chemistry. Add to that, it was a great time in their career. Both men were putting on clinics week in and week out, and this was no different. It was one hell of a match, but then again, you know they could do stuff like this in their sleep. Backstage, Paul Heyman tried to get Stephanie to change her mind about Brock Lesnar, but she wouldn't budge, and so he promised no more Mr. Nice Guy. Oh man, we're back with this storyline. Now, she started taking a liking to her despite her relationship with Father Wilson. She basically forced Tori to meet her in this hotel room, and they basically ended that before anything went down. L. Wilson, though, wasn't really angry over what had occurred. and he still wanted to marry her. Shawn then promised to reveal the footage at Armageddon. She was teasing all kinds of things, and the commentary were impatient as hell. This segment looked like it was done in super slow motion or something. Slowly the fans were getting louder, and just as they were doing something, she paused the footage, much to the chagrin of the fans. It must have been awkward for some kids in the arena, like just thinking about, hey dude, can we go watch wrestling? And this ends up happening. Like, I try to disappear like I'm Undertaker or something after that. Al wanted this to stop. The commentary were laughing their asses over this. She obliged forcefully, and after calling him a bobo, the fans chanted asshole. She responded to this. She's like, he is not an asshole. And Taz said, he just looks like one. Basically, this is the biggest example of clickbait. Like, imagine. I wouldn't even say imagine, because there was a bunch who wanted to see that. They ended up getting Al Wilson complaining about video footage, basically. That's all that occurred here, and technically it was a waste of time. Tori didn't even appear here. I mean, she was the poster girl of the show. This is one bizarre storyline. The next match was between Kane and Batista. This was Dave's first ever pay-per-view. He was already seen as a huge prospect, and so they decided to pair him with Ric Flair. This was much better than the initial plan of having him be a vape baby. Yeah, you should go search that if you don't know about it. Anyways, in the beginning, Kane was somewhat overwhelmed by Batista. It's very unusual to say that, and also Batista looks naked without the elbow pads. Kane adapted to the situation and was somewhat in control. Batista, though, wasn't out of his element, and he hit the spear that got him a 2 count. Kane started fighting back, but at a moment's notice was thrown over the top rope. He hangs Batista over the rope, and Flair randomly gets involved. He was so desperate to drop him but failed, and this greatly benefited Batista. Nevertheless, Kane began his comeback inside the ring. He got ahead of himself with a flying clothesline, and this led to an awkward Batista bomb attempt. Kane went up top again, and this time connected. Flair, though, provided yet another distraction, and it was chokeslam time. He elbows him before hitting the spinebuster. This didn't give him the win, and Kane rebounded with the chokeslam. Nature Boy gets involved again, and this time, Kane lost his patience, and Batista took advantage with the sit-down powerbomb. 1, 2, 3. So at this point, Batista had beaten Kane twice. Despite his inexperience, I didn't feel as if Batista looked particularly bad out there. There was that awkward moment with the Batista bomb, but when I think of my expectations heading into it, I expected a disappointment, a match that was going to be the worst on the card, but that it wasn't. It also shows just how much high hopes they had for Batista by having him beat Kane of all people in his first pay-per-view match. He would continue to develop in the years to come, but at this point in time, he would unfortunately suffer an injury that would leave him sidelined for several months. In the back, Kurt Angle was searching for Brock Lesnar. John Cena, meanwhile, did a freestyle without a beat. He called himself the envy of all guys, said that he'll find their girls' bra size, made a reference to Marsha Brady's nose injury, and said that he doesn't give a damn about who he pisses off, whether it be Stephanie McMahon or Eric Bischoff, and he was out. Similar to Batista, there was some hopes with John Cena, and this rap character would actually get people talking more and more about him as the weeks went by. Following this, Victoria defended the WWE Women's Championship against Trish Stratus and Jacqueline. The Victoria character was a huge standout from late 2002. She's pretty damn unpredictable, and I mean it. It's not giving off weird looks during her entrance unpredictable. You know, they're like, oh, she's unpredictable. And all she does is some weird faces or something like that. No. She stole Jacqueline's clothes at one point, bit off Stacy's nail. She was wilding. Here, Victoria debuted the All the Things She Said song by Tattoo. It's obviously dubbed on the network, but it's worth a mention. She randomly jogged to the ring only to get thrown out. Jackie went for a leg sweep that got her a 2 count, and she dropped Victoria with a clothesline before double teaming Trish with her. She superplexed Trish, but it didn't lead to much. Victoria got hers. Jacqueline showed that she was the most experienced, and her approach was much more intelligent compared to the other two. Stratus had a burst of momentum that almost led somewhere, but Victoria ended it with a boot. Her moonsault wanted to be, and instead we saw a chick kick. She delivered several strikes and then a cover. Suddenly, though, Victoria randomly whacked Stratus in the face before stealing the win. Okay, something was off about this one. They were very, very limited in the length area. Add to that, it seemed messy. What's funny to me about it is the fact that Jackie took the pinfall after a clothesline in the corner. Like, what the hell's up with that? Also, Victoria's character was awesome here, so her winning was cool. Meanwhile, Kurt Angle was sucking up to Brock Lesnar. He didn't want the same injustice occurring to him and tried enticing Brock by mentioning that by standing at ringside, he would have the chance of getting his revenge on Paul Heyman. Lesnar didn't make his decision there, but Angle made an effort to sway him in that direction by showing tape of Survivor Series. Okay. The next match was for the WWE Championship. Big Show defended the title against Kurt Angle. Alright, the story itself wasn't exactly centered on these two. It was more about the relationship between Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. As a result of Survivor Series, Lesnar went wild. He slammed Matt Hardy through a wall, gave Big Show a huge beating, and he was suspended in light of the carnage he caused. At the same time, Kurt Angle barely won the opportunity to challenge at Armageddon. He realized that this was going to be an uphill battle, and so he asked Brock for his help, and even offered to get his suspension lifted. Also, on the other hand, Big Show's push was so damn sudden. Like, this man was previously taking L's to Billy and Chuck. on heat, and now he's the world champion? Kurt Angle, he's somewhat solidified himself as one of the very best. His 2002 is extremely exceptional, and if it wasn't for Brock Lesnar, I'd have him as the wrestler of the year. So the bell rings, collar and elbow. Angle already was trying to out-wrestle him, but the champion was far too much for him at the moment. At one point, he tossed him out like trash onto Heyman, but he turned a negative into a positive for all of 2 seconds. Big Show, he was utterly dominant. His approach was as simple as a Hulk Hogan match. All he had to do was dominate. It was an absolute far cry compared to the job where he was only a few months earlier. Taz got a laugh out of me talking about how big his head was, and Angle did have a little moment there, but Big Show dropped him with a final cut. USA chant intensifies, and apparently I just learned that Big Show was from Canada, because why would he be chanting USA, USA? I'm joking, obviously. Angle was so desperate that he bit him in the face, and he tried wearing him down, but it didn't do much. That DDT actually did something though, and after recovering, Angle went at it with some strikes. He had that hard-headed pit bull mentality, and at face value, Big Show was starting to struggle. Angle was going all out as evident by this unexpected moonsault. Big Show attempted a couple of things, but before he knew it, Angle caught him with the angle slam. The straps were down, and he locked him in the ankle lock. The champion caught him, but once again, he was stuck. The man was desperate, but then he launched Angle into the ref, and Heyman tossed in a steel chair. Meanwhile, Brock chants intensify. That chair went to the wrong person, and the shots were too much. He was swinging like Big Show's head was a baseball. This didn't give him the win, though, but seconds later, Big Show was tapping. All of a sudden, A-Train made a run-in and dropped the Olympic hero. And it was looking like a dire result for the #1 contender. Once both men recovered, Big Show chokeslammed Kurt Angle, and then all of a sudden, Brock Lesnar ran in. This was the loudest the crowd had been the entire night. Heyman was pissing himself and ran like he's got to pick up some Spider-Man tickets or something. In the ring, Angle went for the cover. 1, 2, 3, new champion. This made him a 4-time world champion, and overall, I'd say it picked up as time went on. By the end, it was pretty damn fun in my opinion. Others don't like overbooking, but that's just me. Angle, it didn't matter who you put him in with during this time period. He would have found a way to do something. Like, he would have made it at least decent. This match, he made it really interesting. I'd probably say this was the second best matchup of the night up to this point. It's not outstanding, but it was decent enough for me. He would obviously go on to form a partnership with Paul Heyman and dupe Brock Lesnar about the whole deal. At the World, Rob Van Dam said that nobody will enjoy seeing Triple H take a beating like himself. When they asked him on his thoughts about the match, that's all he said. And the main event, Shawn Michaels defending the World Heavyweight Championship in a 3 stages of hell match against Triple H. About time we watch this again. The first fall was a street fight. Second was a steel cage match, and if a third is necessary, then it will be a ladder match. As we all know, these two had the intense feud. Shawn Michaels managed to fight through the hatred and injuries in order to finally win the World Heavyweight Championship. Triple H felt naked without the title, add to that was somewhat addicted to it like a drug, wanted it back. That's simply putting it. I have a whack-ass video I made on it 2 years ago. There's better stuff out there. And if I was to work on it again, it'd be in the whole evolution thing. But with that said, Triple H, despite the criticism he received at the time, managed to return after RVD broke his throat and had some issues in his side during this match. Like, say what you want about him, but at the end of the day, this man is tough. Before the match could even begin, Ric Flair was ejected right out of there. See? Earl Hebner still hated Triple H. HBK was pretty impatient and the pace was already quick. He got rid of the game who spun this as a positive and brought in a trash can. The challenger did this once more before HBK thought it was a perfect idea to bring in a table. His suplex attempt didn't go anywhere, and back in the ring, Triple H again avoided a big moment. Michaels almost stalled with a pinfall attempt, but Triple H quickly shut him down before feeling something in his right leg. He was clearly planning something, but similar to Michaels' attempt, it was countered. And then started to target the back as it was essentially a bullseye. Little did he know that HBK would counter and drop him with a sidewalk slam. Both men were just taking their time and attacking, and they weren't going all out by the looks of it. The sweet chin music was countered by Triple H, who twisted the knee. As a result of this, the dissection began. It also didn't help that there was an upcoming cage match. Triple H stepped on it, rammed it into the post, locked him in the figure 4, and he was locked in his hold for like 2 minutes or something. After a long while, the hold was finally countered and Hunter was forced to break it. He retaliated by bouncing the lid off Michaels' head and they made their way to the outside. Michaels had 0 offense at this point and Triple H brought in a 2x4 wrapped in barbed wire. He had a clear open shot, but he got too greedy and brought fire to the equation. Michaels kicked him in the leg before whacking him with a 2x4 and JR reacted as he did. As a result of this, the game was busted open. He took a beating inside the ring before successfully connecting with a drop toe hold. His pedigree attempt, though, that wasn't to be. Forearm from Michaels and then the kip up, but Hunter hit a chop block and then the pedigree. 1, 2, 3. First fall is over. I honestly felt that it dragged a bit too much. They could have used that time for the second and third falls, in my personal opinion. And the intelligence of Triple H. He went and brought in some weapons to accelerate his moment of hoisting the title. He whacked Michaels in the face before it even began. The game was very efficient in the attack, and Michaels had this tiny chance to do something, but he was quickly shut down, and now he was busted open. His skin was being grated into the cage. HBK chants intensified, but his future looked gloomy. Nevertheless, he had a sudden burst, and suddenly the crowd was getting happier. Triple H was desperately trying to escape, and it seemed like the title was coming to him, but Shawn Michaels caught up and fought him. Ric Flair made his return, and Triple H thought, if it goes bad, at least Michaels is destroyed. Best case, he wins. Worst case, HBK goes through a table. What Triple H wanted wasn't to be. Instead, HBK connected with the elbow. He was ready to end it with the sweet chin music, but Flair got involved, and the whole distraction almost worked in Hunter's favor, but HBK took notice and blasted both men with a chair. Ric Flair wanted the spotlight on him and bled profusely, and the game took notice and almost pedigreed the champion. But Michael super kicked him and instead pulled a Jeff Hardy. 1, 2, 3. I preferred the cage match to this free fight. In the latter's case, I felt that it dragged a bit too long. It was like 21 minutes or something along the lines of that. They could have used that time for the ladder match because that was short as hell. At this point, the advantage was with Michaels. He was constantly blasting, throwing the ladder against the game, and he climbed to the very top and pulled a WrestleMania 10, but Triple H avoided it. He had the pedigree following this, and the fans were too busy looking at something else in the crowd. The game slowly climbed the rungs, and his legs were hurting greatly, but he was fingertips away. Michaels, though, pulled him down and super kicked him the hell out of there, and this time HBK went up. Unlike Triple H, he actually touched the title, but he took too long, and so Triple H pushed him over. He climbs up and retrieves the title. New champion. Watching it again, it lacks something to elevate it. Add to that, when you watch it on a highlight reel, it feels like one of the best matches of the year, but then you watch the nearly 40-minute match and you're confused. Also, I feel if they cut the time a bit, in particular during that street fight, it definitely would have been better. That's not to say long matches aren't good or anything like that. Triple H's match with Austin was 2 minutes shorter than this, and it's widely considered to be one of the very best of 2001. Add to that, it didn't help that Triple H had an injury. Now, the match itself as a whole isn't bad, but when you look at what Hunter and HBK were capable of earlier in the year, yes, it's considered to be a disappointment. Also, when you look at this, I feel it would have been better to have a straight-up ladder match. With these two, I think it would have been at least good. Yeah. Overall, Armageddon 2002 was not the best way to end the year, honestly. For one, they had a damn Dawn Marie segment that should have been on SmackDown. Add to that, we had some forgettable matches. A couple of these matches weren't terrible or trash or anything like that, but they were better suited for TV, like the Edge and A-Train match, Batista and Kane as well. Add to that, the main event did not deliver as people expected it to. Like, that match had been a bit better. A lot of people will be talking positively about this event. Well, since that did not deliver, it's just seen as an average pay-per-view. If I were to give you a rating for Armageddon, it'd probably be 5.5 to 6 out of 10 or something along the lines of that. My match of the night goes to Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit. Second is the opener, tag team title elimination match. And then third is Kurt Angle versus Big Show. 3 Stages of Hell match should be in there, but we can't really put in there. Like, I did not like it as much as the other matches. So there's that. It was a pretty weak event, especially after Survivor Series. Like, that was one hell of an event. It was one of the greatest Survivor Series of all time, one of, if not the best ones. And this was a bit of a downgrade compared to that. As I said, I'd give it a 5.5 to 6 out of 10. And I want to know what pay-per-view you guys want me to talk about next. Just comment it down below. I'll be certain to do it, so yeah. Alright, what do you guys think of Armageddon 2002? Please comment down below. And that's it for this video. Make sure you hit an angle slam on the like button and perhaps the pedigree and the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.